I'm currently watching my parents argue in their $5 million kitchen, from my phone, 3 states away. The camera above the Sub-Zero fridge gives me a wide-angle view. Mom is pacing. Dad is rubbing his temples, and my brother, Ethan, the self-proclaimed lifestyle influencer with 42K mostly bought followers, is yelling about bad lighting like it's a constitutional right. The lighting, by the way, is doing exactly what I programmed it to do, flickering, subtly, just enough to ruin his livestream. See, here's the thing, that house. The marble floors, biometric locks, voice-controlled glass walls, climate-zoned wine cellar, AI security grid. And a custom home OS that integrates everything from sprinkler pressure to espresso temperature. I built it, every line of code, every automation, every backend override, and 3 nights ago I was told to pack my things and leave. Why? Because Ethan needed a content room. My childhood bedroom apparently had better natural light. I stood in the foyer I engineered, the motion sensors still greeting me with "Welcome home." Alex, while my mother calmly explained that I was doing fine and Ethan needed support. He films fake luxury morning routines in a house he didn't pay for, wearing watches returned after the shoot. I architected a mansion that responds to heart rate data. Guess which one they chose. They gave him my room, they gave me 30 minutes. What they forgot, I never revoked my root admin access, and tonight the house starts choosing me. If you want to understand why I didn't hesitate to press execute, you need to understand my family. I was never the son, I was infrastructure. Ethan was born 2 years after me, and apparently that's when my parents decided they'd achieved perfection. He had the smile, the dimples, the effortless charm. Teachers called him gifted, coaches called him a natural, my mom called him special. I was called when the Wi-Fi stopped working. It started small. Ethan forgot homework. He's creative, not structured. I forgot homework. Why can't you be more responsible like your brother? Ethan dented Dad's Tesla at 16. Boys make mistakes. I got a B+ in AP Calculus. You're slipping. You learn real quick where you stand in a hierarchy like that. By 25, I had a 6-figure software engineering job and built scalable cloud architecture for companies that would never remember my name. But at home, I was, Alex, can you fix the printer? Or, Alex, the TV is doing that thing again. Or my personal favorite, Alex, our friends are coming over. Can you make the house feel more expensive? When my parents bought the $5 million mansion, it wasn't just a house, it was a flex. Glass walls, Italian marble, voice-controlled everything. They wanted the future, so I built it for them, not just installed gadgets. I architected the entire smart home ecosystem from scratch. Custom home OS, centralized control hub, redundant fail-safes, energy optimization algorithms. Security layers that would make a mid-sized bank sweat. I didn't charge them. Dad called it a good learning experience. Ethan called it cool background vibes for his content, because while I was pulling 3 a.m. coding sessions to integrate biometric door access with HVAC automation, Ethan was discovering his personal brand. His brand, for clarity, was standing in rooms I paid to automate and saying things like, "Grind never stops," while wearing sweatpants. He posted videos titled, "Day in the Life of a Young Entrepreneur, Manifesting Millions, How I Built My Dream Life," the dream life being my API calls, and my parents ate it up. They converted the West Wing into his studio. Dad paid for professional lighting rigs. Mom learned video editing just to help his growth. When he hit 10K followers, they threw a dinner party like he'd cured something. When I deployed version 3.2 of the Home OS, cutting energy costs by 18% and boosting system efficiency, they said, "That's nice, honey." I was the silent utility bill reduction. He was the headline. At family gatherings, relatives asked Ethan about the influencer thing. They asked me if I could look at their laptops. One Thanksgiving, Aunt Carol hit me with, "So Alex, you're still living at home." I was running backend systems for 3 companies remotely. Ethan was filming a sponsored post for protein powder that gave him hives. Guess who was considered more successful? The worst part wasn't even the favoritism, it was the rewrite. My parents started introducing the house as something we built as a family. Ethan would gesture around dramatically and go, "Yeah, I helped design the tech side." Helped. This man once asked me if Ram was a car brand. I became the live-in IT guy, not the son who built the neural nervous system of their mansion, not the engineer who made their security airtight. Not the reason their home adjusted temperature based on sun exposure and occupancy patterns, just the dude who fixed glitches When Ethan's streams lagged, I optimized bandwidth allocation. When his ring light overloaded a circuit, I rewired it. When his motivational mastermind Zoom crashed, I patched router firmware. I was indispensable and invisible. So when they stood in that foyer and told me Ethan needed my room more than I did because his career is taking off, it wasn't shocking. It was confirmation. I had always been the backend. He had always been the front-facing interface. They didn't see the system. They only cared about what sparkled. And the funny thing about systems, the person who builds them decides how they behave. Even after he's removed from the house, which is exactly when my real education began, it was raining the night they decided I was no longer part of the architecture, not dramatic movie rain. Cold, steady, inconvenient rain, the kind that soaks through your hoodie while you're pretending you're not getting emotionally evicted in 4K. I remember standing in the foyer, the one with the motion sensor chandelier. I calibrated myself, watching droplets slide down the 12-foot glass doors. Mom didn't sit down. That's how I knew it wasn't a conversation. Alex, she started, folding her arms like she was bracing against weather instead of guilt. Ethan's career is accelerating. Like he was a startup IPO instead of a guy who reviews free sneakers. Dad cleared his throat. He needs space, a dedicated environment. I blinked at them. I built the environment. Silence. Upstairs, Ethan's laugh echoed down the staircase. Loud, performative, he knew what was happening. Mom wouldn't meet my eyes. You work remotely, you can work anywhere. Like I was a portable appliance. I pay for half the property tax, I said quietly. Dad's jaw tightened. We don't need to nickel and dime family, nickel and dime. That's what my contribution was reduced to. Footsteps descended the stairs. Ethan appeared wearing my old varsity hoodie, the one I left in the laundry room. He leaned against the railing like he was watching reality TV. Hey man, he said with that influencer half-smile, I'll make the room look sick. Don't worry, I'll give you credit. For my own bedroom, you already have the West Wing, I said. He shrugged. Lighting's better upstairs. My audience deserves quality. I almost laughed. Mom sighed like I was being difficult. We're not saying you're not welcome, just not right now. Translation, you're welcome as long as you're useful. The rain got heavier. Dad checked his watch. It would be better if you packed tonight. Not tomorrow, not next week. Tonight, 30 minutes later, my life was in 2 suitcases and a laptop bag. No dramatic shouting, no apologies. Just efficiency. I walked past the kitchen island. I programmed to adjust brightness based on circadian rhythm. The security panel glowed softly as I approached. Goodbye, Alex, the system chimed automatically. I'd written that farewell protocol for guests leaving after 10 p.m. Ethan snorted. Even the house knows you're leaving. That did it. I looked at him, really looked at him, the smug curve of his mouth, the satisfaction in his eyes. He thought this was a W. He thought the house belonged to him now. I stepped into the rain. Cold water soaked through my sneakers instantly. Behind me, the biometric lock clicked shut. Dad didn't follow. Mom didn't call my name. Ethan's silhouette appeared in my bedroom window seconds later, already filming. Big changes coming, guys, I heard faintly through the storm. New creative era. I stood in the driveway of the mansion I engineered, watching my own window light up for someone else. And that's when I realized something beautifully simple. They removed me physically. But the system still answered to Root, and Root was me. My new apartment smelled like detergent and broken ambition. 480 square feet, 1 window. A radiator that hissed like it was judging me. The first night I sat on the floor because I hadn't unpacked. My entire life fit into 2 suitcases and a laptop. Funny how fast a $5 million mansion can shrink into a browser tab. I opened my laptop out of habit more than intention. Muscle memory. My fingers typed the internal address automatically. The login screen appeared. HomeCore OSV321 admin panel access. I stared at it. Surely Dad had called a third-party company. Surely Ethan had demanded a tech reset. Surely anyone had changed the password. I typed my credentials. Username, root password, enter. The dashboard unfolded like it had been waiting for me. Full system map, live camera feeds, climate zoning, lighting controls, security permissions, bandwidth allocation. Voice assistant override tree, every subsystem pulsing in real time. No restrictions, no revocation, no alerts. They hadn't even demoted me to user-level access. I leaned back against the blank apartment wall and laughed, not loudly, not dramatically, just impressed. They kicked out the architect and left him with the blueprints. On one screen, Ethan's new content room appeared. He'd already rearranged my furniture. My desk faced the window, ring lights installed, LED strips glowing obnoxious neon. He was live streaming. Title: Fresh Start, New Energy. I clicked into bandwidth analytics. The house had dynamic prioritization, something I designed so security systems always overruled entertainment traffic during peak usage. I built it to prevent lag. I could also reverse it. Not crash the stream, that would be obvious, just introduce latency, micro delays, half-second audio desync, a slight compression artifact every 90 seconds. Enough to make viewers comment, "Bro, your Wi-Fi is trash." I didn't execute yet. Revenge isn't about explosions, it's about erosion. I scrolled deeper. Lighting behavior matrix. Environmental automation triggers, voice recognition permissions, guest access logs, and there it was, master override. The system didn't belong to whoever slept in the biggest room. It belonged to whoever held root, and from my tiny apartment, listening to the radiator hiss, I realized something beautiful. I didn't need to be inside the house to haunt it. I just needed to update it, and once I started, I wasn't going to stop. I didn't start with chaos, I started with climate. The mansion had 12 independent temperature zones, bedrooms, kitchen, gym, wine cellar, all optimized using predictive occupancy modeling. I wrote that model. So when Ethan began filming his 5 a.m. discipline routine, shirtless and flexing in front of the window, I gently adjusted zone 3, from a comfy 72 degrees F to 64 degrees F. Not instantly, that would be sus. Gradual, scientific, his shoulders tensed mid-sentence. "Cold showers build resilience," he said through a tight jaw. I dropped it to 62 degrees F. By day 3, he posted a story, "AC been glitching lately." Grinding through it, that evening during his nighttime hustle stream, I reversed it, 78 degrees F, then 81 degrees F, just enough to create that shiny, desperate sweat under professional lighting. Comments flooded in, "Bro, why you glossy? AC broke, is he nervous?" Mom complained about being cold at breakfast. Dad blamed the weather. They never once considered the possibility that the house was choosing sides. Climate discomfort is subtle, but constant, and Ethan was starting to spiral. The house had voice assistants in every room. Most people use them for music or timers. I built something better. Context-triggered audio injections, originally designed for security warnings. Easily repurposed. At 2:17 a.m., when motion sensors detected movement in Ethan's hallway, I triggered a low-volume whisper through the upstairs speaker array. "Ethan," not loud. Just audible enough to question. He froze, phone flashlight trembling. He muttered, "Hello?" Nothing. The next night I escalated, 3:03 a.m. system recalibrating, in my voice. Not an exact recording, just close enough to make his brain do backflips. He checked every room. On the third night as he opened his bedroom door, access denied. The lock didn't actually deny him. It just clicked twice before unlocking. His little wearable "yes, I still had access" spiked to 132 BPM. By the end of the week, he slept with lights on. Mom blamed stress. Dad suggested less screen time. The house, however, had developed attitude. This one required finesse. Ethan had a big collab scheduled. Some mid-tier fitness influencer with suspiciously identical engagement numbers. I waited until they were live, view count climbing, comments rolling. Right as Ethan launched into his monologue about owning your environment, I adjusted the smart lights. Color temp shifted from warm daylight to sterile hospital white, then faint green. Not obvious, just enough to make his skin look unwell. He frowned but powered through. Then I activated scene profile, celebration, confetti lighting effect, soft pink strobes. In the background, the kitchen speakers, 2 floors down, began playing something I uploaded months ago for testing, a children's remix of Baby Shark. Loud. Echoing through the open concept floor plan, Ethan tried to laugh it off. "Ha, my brother must have hacked the system." Chat exploded. "LMAO bro haunted, not Baby Shark. Your house trolling you, no cap." He ran to mute it. I delayed command execution by 2.3 seconds. Long enough for awkward scrambling, long enough for the collab partner to look like he'd made a terrible life choice. Clips went viral, not the motivational speech. The meltdown, this one was art. The refrigerator had biometric access tied to dietary tracking, Dad's cholesterol plan, Mom's sodium limits, Ethan's high-protein influencer diet. I modified only one profile, Ethan S. When he placed his thumb on the scanner, the display read, "User not recognized." The doors stayed sealed. Mom's access worked fine, Dad's worked fine, only Ethan's denied. He tried again. Authentication failed. He laughed at first. Guess I need to update my thumb. Third attempt, the fridge displayed, calorie threshold exceeded. He stared at it like it had personally disrespected his bloodline. Mom gasped, "What does that mean?" "I don't know," he snapped. He tried voice override. Fridge open, permission level insufficient. The house had never denied him anything before. By dinner, he was visibly rattled. Dad called a technician. The technician ran diagnostics for 3 hours. "System looks normal," he finally said. Of course it did. I left no error logs, no visible tampering, just selective obedience. By week 3, patterns emerged. Lights flickered only in Ethan's room. Temperature fluctuated around his filming schedule. Smart speakers responded faster to my old voice profile than to his. The house wasn't malfunctioning, it was favoring. Ethan started telling friends the place felt off. Mom burned sage in the living room. Dad upgraded the firewall. He didn't realize I wrote that too, and every night from my quiet apartment I watched the dashboard glow. No screaming matches, no police, no dramatic explosions, just erosion, confidence thinning. Control slipping, authority dissolving. Because here's the thing about smart systems, they learn behavior, they adapt, and when the architect introduces friction, the house doesn't rebel loudly. It simply stops cooperating, and Ethan, he was beginning to understand what it feels like to be unsupported, and that's when the perfect opportunity landed in his lap. The invitation came through Instagram, not to me, to Ethan. Exclusive brand partnership dinner, live announcement. A luxury wellness startup wanted to sign him as the face of their new campaign. Big money, real money, the kind he'd been pretending to make for years. And of course, the dinner was hosted at the mansion, because nothing says self-made entrepreneur like your parents' address. I watched through the driveway cam as black SUVs pulled in. Influencers, a brand manager, 2 photographers, catered sushi on the Marble Island. Ethan wore a tailored suit, my suit. Dad shook hands like he'd funded a tech IPO. Mom floated between guests saying, "We always believed in his vision." Always. Ethan raised a champagne glass. "Tonight is about growth," he said, standing exactly where he'd laughed while I stood in the rain. I opened the master override panel. One command, house-wide display access. The smart glass walls shifted from transparent to opaque. Guests murmured. The lights dimmed. Every screen in the house, TVs, kitchen display, hallway panels, even the smart fridge, blinked black. Then one word appeared in clean white font, root. Ethan froze mid-sentence. The brand manager frowned. "Is this part of the presentation?" I routed audio through the central speaker array. Not a whisper this time, clear, calm, recognizable. "Welcome, guests." Silence swallowed the room. Dad's face drained of color. Mom gripped the counter. Ethan's smile cracked. "You're standing inside a system I built," I continued. "Every light, every lock, every security protocol." The front doors clicked, locked, not trapped, just paused. On every screen, footage played, clips of Ethan taking credit for the house's design, him saying, "I engineered most of this tech myself," side by side with archived system logs, my name, time-stamped. Authored by Alex M. The room shifted. The brand manager's polite smile evaporated. "Is this true?" she asked him. Ethan opened his mouth. Nothing came out. I softened the lights to neutral daylight. "Unlock the doors. One more thing," I said evenly. The speakers played a short audio clip. "Ethan, 3 nights ago, doesn't matter who built it, I'm the one people see." Silence. Then I ended the broadcast. The glass walls cleared. The system returned to normal. No fire alarms, no chaos, just receipts. From 3 states away, sitting in my tiny apartment, I watched guests quietly collect their coats. And for the first time since the rain, the house felt balanced. The brand deal evaporated within 48 hours. Turns out, companies don't like influencers who fabricate origin stories or hosts whose homes expose them mid-toast. Dad called the next morning. Not to yell, to negotiate. Apparently, when the family-built smart system publicly identifies a sole architect, ownership conversations get real uncomfortable real fast. We settled it cleanly. My name is now legally tied to the home OS, licensing fees included, maintenance contract signed. Ethan moved into a downtown condo with very average Wi-Fi and zero mansion vibes. Mom stopped saying we built this, and the mansion, it still runs perfectly. It just knows exactly who its creator is, and honestly, so does everyone else.